Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Bite Size Insight with Monique, episode number 9. We are continuing with a little series we have here, which is Women in the Lineage of Jesus. The second woman we are going to look at is the story of Rahab. Rahab the prostitute. It's what she's called and known by in Scripture. We're going to look at her story, and we find it in Joshua chapter 2. Rahab's story is one of the ultimate redemption stories in the Bible. When it comes to people who did not know God, people who were not of Israel. Okay, so she was a Canaanite. She's from Jericho. She was outside of the people of God as far as the covenant of God. So this story here is one of ultimate redemption. We're going to pick it up in verse 1, chapter 2. Now Joshua the son of Nun sent out 2 men from Acacia Grove to spy secretly, saying, "Go view the land, especially Jericho." So when they went and came to the house of a harlot named Rahab and lodged there. Stop. Questions, right? Like, what are 2 good Hebrew boys doing at the house of a prostitute? All kinds of questions, right? How do they know? How do they find her? Where do they know to look? Like, all kinds of questions. But let's continue, because we'll bring it back and give some more context here. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men have come here tonight from the children of Israel to search out the country." So the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the country." Okay. Now, to give you a little bit more context and background, Jericho was on high alert because we will find out later on from Rahab how the city knew and heard stories of the children of Israel and what their God had done. So they are thinking that these people are coming for us next, basically. Okay. Now, most likely, the reason why these spies made their way and found their way to Rahab's house was because she was probably out on the street working. She's a woman of the street. All right. Probably noticed these 2 strangers. Y'all aren't from around here, are you? Most likely, right? You got to think come on, guys. Like nowadays, it's the same thing. Like you notice when someone's new, she's out, maybe for business. This is her occupation. This is her way of life. So she's a woman of the street. So we know that she's street smart too. Okay. So most likely she noticed them and probably had them come to her house, which is what a lot of commentaries think as well, because ultimately God did it and it was divine appointment because it was for their protection and her blessing. Because people saw them enter her house and they went and told the king, okay? Like right away, yo, we saw these people go to Rahab's house. You better get down there and find out who they are because they're from Israel. These are the children of Israel here. What are they doing here? So the king sent, okay? Now, verse 4, this is where we learn more of Rahab, her faith, and her character. Then the woman took the 2 men and hid them. So she said, "Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. And it happened as the gate was being shut, when it was dark, the men went out. Where the men went, I do not know. Pursue them quickly, for you may overtake them." But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order on the roof. Then the men pursued them by the road in the Jordan to the fords, and as soon as those who pursued them had gone out, they shut the gate. So as far as the gate goes of the city, that was like whenever the city gates closed, that was it. Business was done. Nobody went in or out of the city for the night. So that's why she was saying, "Hurry up and go do it." And they didn't shut the gate until those guards had gone out to search for them. So she lied. She lied. Now, she lied, but you'll find out she really did it because of her own faith. Because lying to the king, that's punishable by death. And she knows this. Because remember, she is a prostitute, so the king knows who she is. So no doubt she has serviced his men, maybe he himself. Because you got to remember, it's just like how it is today and back in the day, how women in this field, they were privy to certain information and knew things because of the powerful, prestigious men that they laid with. So you got to think about that. So She knows the punishment that would await her if she would be found out lying to the king, but she did it anyways. And the king didn't even bother searching her house. Okay, so he trusted her loyalty to him, or so he thought. Didn't bother. Servants just took her word and went with it. So now this is how we find out more. Verse 8. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you, for the Lord your God, He is God above and on earth beneath. So this is where you see Rahab's faith. Even though she's a woman living this lifestyle, even though she doesn't know the law of Moses, she didn't know anything else about this God, but she heard about this God and recognized this God is supreme. It's the God of gods. And so for her own self, she wanted to know more. For her own self, she wanted to discover. And that's why she hid them. And so we can see her faith starting here. And like I said, utter redemption, because Rahab is listed in the Faith Hall of Fame chapter in Hebrews chapter 11 because of her faith. So be encouraged that your story, your testimony you tell people, it reaches. It plants seeds. It reaches. She heard, you hear? We heard about the Red Sea drying up. We heard what you did to these other kings, and your God is God. He's the real God. And so also, it just takes this one instance for her to have this encounter with these two spies. And because of her encounter with these two spies, she thus enters into the family of God, because we see her listed in the lineage of Jesus. Most commentators believe that she married one of those two spies, and the name was Salmon, who she married. And a lot of people don't know or don't think about Rahab is the mother of Boaz. Boaz, a very prestigious man in his time, who ended up marrying Ruth. And Ruth is who we will talk about next time. But she is the mother of Boaz. So you hear the story and you hear her heart. And so she goes on to say, verse 12. Now, therefore, I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you will also show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, my brother, my mothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. So the men answered her, Our lives for yours. If none of you tell this business of ours, it shall be, when the Lord has given us the land, that they will deal kindly and truly with you. And that's what happened. So she sent them out a different way, told them where to go, where to hide, and they gave her, the red cord to put in her window, so that way when they arrived, they would leave her house alone. And when chapter 6, when the children of Israel come back and they march around Jericho and the walls fall, her house was the only house that was spared. Her family was the only family that was spared. And it was because of her faith. So sometimes, even though we can look at a situation or look at a person and think nothing's going on, you have no idea what God is doing. You have no idea how God is setting up things and orchestrating things for them, that their lives can be turned around and be a story of redemption like none other. So be encouraged with family members that you have. Continue praying for them. Continue sharing stories, coworkers, classmates, whatever, people that you know, and let your testimony be told. Because of her hearing these stories, it built faith on the inside of her. And she recognized that God, He's the true God, the God of Israel. And so much so that her life was changed forever when she had this encounter. So that is a little insight to Rahab. I encourage you, check out the whole story, chapter 2 of the book of Joshua. So that is bite-sized insight with Monique. Any other questions, ideas, thoughts, please go ahead and send them to info@moniquedeleon.com. If there is a topic that you want me to cover, a scripture or anything like that, I will go ahead and search it out Be glad to give you some insight on it. And come back next time and we're going to talk about Ruth.